Hey everybody, I'm Anna McEwen. And now for Bob Switzer with the epic narrative.
Woo! I just love being up here. Can you tell? It's just fun. You guys are just fun to be around. There was so many things going on in my world. Let's see. Oh, some of you already brought in some laundry detergent, which is awesome. The official date is next week, but next week? 2 weeks. 15th, 16th. So today's the 2nd. If I add 7, it comes up to 9. And then another 7. So we still got a couple weeks. So keep bringing it in. Keep bringing it in. That's what I meant to say, really. I didn't mean to get distracted by math. Crazy. So last week we were in Detroit. We had a nice baby shower. My firstborn son is having a son. Crazy. That'll be number 5. That's coming out sometime in July. And then, so that was a fun shower. We flew back last night. It was awesome. We hit some weather issues. Got a little delayed. That was cool, but landed all is well. All is well. And then this week we're going for a couple days. Someone just blessed our socks off with an opportunity to go hang out in the mountains in Vermont, and it was one of those God things, right? Didn't say anything, didn't ask, and the offer lays out there, and it's like, oh my goodness! Like Friday is our 33rd wedding anniversary, so we get to go celebrate that at this beautiful place. My wife is just amazing. 33 years. Wow, I remember the first day I saw her. No, I really do. I remember. We were at just the first day. Just the first day. The first day I saw her, okay? It's the first day of, well, technically it's college, but it really wasn't a college. It was a religious Bible institute, and all of us were there. They love the Lord. They love the Bible. They have a ton of rules, which unfortunately they tie into also loving God. But a lot of people do that. I don't take it from their heart. I know what their heart is, but anyway. So I was all into that at the time because it's a lot easier to obey rules and know that you're right than to be in a relationship and have to work at it. So anyway, enough commentary, Bob. Get back to the first day. Thank you so much. So I just remember the first day. I saw her the first day. I saw her the first day in this sea of people. It was just like a movie. In my head, anyways. She was walking out of the dining room, and I was like, oh my. If I ever had a shot at someone like that, I would not play any more games. Because I just loved playing games. I did, unfortunately. I was a horrible man. And so girls, stay away from me back then. It just was. To me, the whole dating scene was a game. It was just a game. And I played the game. I played it as well as I could. And I saw Lori, and I was like, I would risk it all if I had a chance at someone like that. And I'd never even met her. I just knew it. And if you want the rest of the story, invite us over for dinner, because it takes me about an hour and a half to tell it, and I just don't have time today. I really don't. We can go out for lunch or something. I will tell the story, but it takes a long time, and it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. It involves focus, Bob, focus. I just love the story. Oh, I get to do another wedding at the end of this month, too. I'm so excited. Someone asked Daryl, and Daryl can't, so I get to. I'm so excited. I love weddings. Oh, and that works out great, too, because it's my wife's birthday that weekend, and so we get to go to Boston all day and hang out, and then do a wedding in the afternoon. So, oh, God just takes care of her. She's amazing. So I'm going to take a look at a couple parables again. I know it's so bizarre to me. Even this morning, I'm sitting here and I think, Bob, you just keep telling old stories like they've been around forever. Like what? But I love stories. The Lord just speaks to me in story. It's a narrative, always the narrative for me, and always has been. And I remember I was trained in alliteration and outlines and poems and illustrations, and I know how to do all that. But it never felt, true to me. I just knew it was the right way to preach because that's the way I was trained. And it wasn't until I understood that the Lord could speak to you in the narrative, and then it was like, oh, now I can just, now this is how it happens for me. So that's always fun for me. And it's why I don't necessarily use an outline or alliteration. Not that there's anything evil about it or wrong. It's just not the way I think. But there are people who do think that way, and it just makes a lot more sense. And when they preach that way or they talk that way, it just flows out of them so freely. And I think, wow, how do they do that? It's like being, my wife. Okay, so the Lord gives me dreams or whatever. He speaks to me in the story. Like I get these long stories. And I have a lot of fun with them. And my wife gets dreams, and they're like pieces, because she's like a puzzle person. And she gets to put all the pieces together. Like even this weekend, we were at someone's house, and somebody broke out a puzzle. And they lasted about 3 minutes. And then there's my wife. Nonstop, couldn't go to bed till the puzzle was done. And I just sit at the table and watch her, because it doesn't bother me that the pieces aren't in the right place. Like, it just doesn't. But it would, like if I dragged her to bed, she'd be laying there, eyes wide open, like, oh yeah, I don't. She'd be trying to picture the piece. I think that color goes, I think I could put it all together right now. And she would. That's what's awesome. It's just awesome the way God makes us. That's why communication is so important. That we learn how each other thinks, that we learn what means things to what it means and how it means and the definitions of things, because all the perspectives are different. That's why I think parables are so much fun. Nice segue, Bob. Hey, thanks. I just came up with it. That's why I think parables are so much fun, because we all get that different perspective. It's such an amazing opportunity to interact with God's word. So here's Jesus. He's telling parables again. I love we're going to be in Matthew. We're going to start Matthew 13. I love the opening phrase of verse 1. That same day, Jesus went out from the house and sat by the lake. Love that. I don't know what day it is. It doesn't mean that it happened right after chapter 12. It just means this happened on a day. On a day, Jesus got up from bed and he went down to the lake. I know people that love to live by the lake. They just love, right? And probably none of us mind being by the lake, but there's some people, like being by water just speaks to them, right? You just could sit there all day. All day. A lot of people are nodding. Yeah. So, you know what Jesus is doing, right? He gets up from bed, he grabs a salted fish, herring, or something, and a bagel at the local shop, maybe some pita bread, I don't know. And he just goes down to the lake. He's just going to hang out. It's refreshing to be by the water. Imagine the prophetic insight Jesus gets just hanging out by the lake. His brain had to be exploding. It had to be so much fun. And then the next verse starts out with such large crowds gathered around him. Don't you love it when you walk onto a beach and there's no one there and you lay down and then they start showing up? The families, the coolers, the tents, the umbrellas, the radios, Bluetooth speakers, wagons, children, seagulls, food, and you think, oh, this started out so nice. I was the only one here. That happens to me a lot because I tend to hit the beach, on vacation around 5:30 a.m. So there's people are leaving, having been there all night, and I get the choice of all the best seats or cabanas or whatever, and then they start crawling back out. I don't know if that was, that's the way, this is what I picture when it says such loud, like Jesus goes down to the lake, he's got his pita bread and his coffee and a salted whatever, and he's just, people are showing up. They're like, oh, Jesus is up. What? Yeah, no, I just saw him go by the window. Where's he going? I don't know. We got to go find him. Why? Because I love when he talks. I just want to be near him. Joshua. Yeah, that's just in case you need another language. I figured I'd throw one in there. I think that's Hebrew. Yeshua's down by the lake. People just got excited. They loved the way he taught. They loved the way he spoke. Why? Because he was resurrecting the life-giving words of the law. Remember, he was not an evangelical pastor undercover as a rabbi. He was a rabbi. And he was bringing life to the law. Why? Because there was life in what was given to Moses. But it had been stolen by religion. And it had been made into something that if you obeyed all these rules, you would get to heaven. And as Daryl says, that was dead on arrival. You can't get there. And Jesus was showing them the love of the Father through it. And it blew their minds. It brought life to their bodies and to their souls. They couldn't wait to see him. They saw him walk down the street with his coffee. They grabbed their own coffee. They started following him down the street. He's standing by the lake, and people just started showing up. You could kind of picture them. Like they don't know, do we interrupt him? What do we do? So we just got to go stand next to him. Morning. Hey, good morning. Beautiful, beautiful day, isn't it? Why, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, excuse me. Hey. Good to see you too. Yeah. Oh, where'd you get your coffee? Oh, good. All right, awesome. I love it. Whoa, hey, whoa. Yeah, excuse me. Hey, whoa, look at all of you coming down to the lake. Whoa. It says that there's so many of them, like, he just kind of, he's ankle deep in the water for a little bit. They're all like, can you tell us something? Sure, I can, yeah, I guess. I mean, honestly, does a preacher ever not have something to say? I mean, and this is a rabbi, like an accomplished teacher. He knows how to tell a story. He knows how to interact with people, and that's exactly what he did. He says such large crowds gathered around him. He got into a boat and he sat in it. And while all the people stood on the shore, he told them many things in parables. Many things. He got in a boat. Pulled one, he probably was close. I don't know. He pulls one over. He kind of leans on it for a little bit, and maybe he just kind of flops in the front end of it. And he just starts talking to everybody on the shore. Just starts talking, and they're all gathered in. And the kids, kids are playing in the water. There's literally there is no way that they avoid it ever. We never showed up anywhere with our children where there was a puddle where I didn't suspect. I just knew. I didn't even fight it. I just knew somebody was going in. And if it would start out with this literally just happened a couple weeks ago with my grandkids. They were having a praise picnic over there. Anyways, Jonah and Luana, right? I opened up the pool. It's like, I know it's May. I suspected it would be warm in May. It was crazy optimism on my part. But we opened up the pool. It's like, 60 degrees, the water. And they're hanging out, and we're hanging out, and they want to go up by the pool. So we go up by the pool, and they want to touch it. And Stephen's with them, and we're with them, and we all know what's going to happen. So he's like, yes, you can touch it. So they're touching it, and they're scurrying around. Don't run, don't want to fall in the water. Don't run. And then it was, can we put our feet in? And he's like, yeah, go ahead, you can put your feet in. And we all know what's happening. And soon it was, can we stand on the step? Yeah, you can stand. And then it was stomp. And then it was like, pretty soon we had 2 naked children in the water. You can't. So these are the little things that go through my head while Jesus, when it says Jesus is in a boat and there's a large crowd around, I think there's got to be kids in the water. There just has to be. Because somebody's like, just go play. I'm trying to listen to Jesus. Just play in the water. And periodically he'd be interrupted because somebody would scream because their brother threw mud at him or whatever. So anyways, all this is going on, and there's fishermen going out, and there's just, parables were just a great way to have a conversation. Remember, parables are different than legends, different than fables, because parables point us to Christ, point us to God. It revealed something about the nature of God, and it revealed to people a choice, an opportunity to make a choice. Parables are very unique to rabbinical teachings. Other teachers use fables, other teachers use legends. Rabbis use parables. So he taught them many parables. So why is this particular parable about the sower and the seeds, why is that one repeated in all the Gospels? Because it's so important to all the other parables. Because it speaks to the choice people have to make about their own lives. And that's what makes all the parables come to life. So he says these things. The farmer went out to sow his seed, and he was scattering the seed, and some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up, and some fell on the rocky places where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came out, the plants were scorched, and they withered because it had no root. And other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants, and still other seed fell on the good soil, where it produced a crop 100 times that what was sown. Whoever has ears, let him hear. So he throws out this thing about soil. Now, this is what we have to understand. This is a parable about the soil. It's not about the sower. The sower does his job. It's not about the seed. The seed works every time. This is about the soil. This is about the receiving of the seed. And everybody in the audience would recognize that because in the Jewish traditions and in their teachings, there were 4 types of disciples that you could have. There were those that were quick to learn and quick to not learn, unlearn, quick to lose. They were like zero-sum gain. Then there were those who were slow to learn and slow to lose. So they tended to hang on to a few things. There were those who were slow to learn and quick to lose. They were considered wicked or evil learners. They weren't good at all. And then there were those who were quick to learn and slow to lose. And they were the ones you wanted. Those were the disciples you wanted. Quick to learn and slow to lose. So the fact that there were 4 soils really spoke to the culture of the people that Jesus was talking to. He understood who he was talking to. They understood he's talking about 4 types of disciples. He's talking about 4 types of people and how they receive the word. And what happens to it is their choice. So they're excited. They have a choice to make. Well, the disciples' job, their role along with Jesus, is whenever a parable was told, they would then discuss the ramifications and the teachings and the principles of the law of the kingdom that the Lord was presenting. They would then discuss it with the crowd that was there. It was basically like quick little life groups would form all over the beach, and they would have these conversations, and they would interact around the kingdom principle that Jesus had just tossed out in a story. And they would talk about, okay, so which one are you, and who are you, and what do we learn about God and all this, and it was awesome. Well, after this particular parable, evidently the disciples come to Jesus and they say, so why do you tell so many stories? Why are you always talking in parables? Now, this is really important. Why? Why? Because it meant, it gets miscombobulated a lot. Because we read these phrases in the next few verses, we read them with an American, Western, Christian filter, it's not that it's wrong, it's unfortunate because I think it steals from what Christ is teaching in the moment. And I think what he's teaching in the moment is really important. So he ends the last production of the crop 100-fold, and he says, whoever has ears, let him hear. Now that phrase tied into a teaching from Isaiah or Isaias. Say another language. I'm just multilingual. Yeshua, Isaias. I could speak in tongues too. That could be, I could have all kinds of fun today. So that phrase, he who has an ear, let him hear, goes to a teaching from Isaiah that basically says, if you want to really hang on to this, practice it. So the disciples come up and they're like, so why do you teach in parables so much? And this is where a lot of preachers get a little excited because we like this. Our flesh likes this. Well, because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given to you, but not to them. You know the mysteries. But the little people on the shore, those ignorant farmers, those poor little dim-witted fishermen, those sinning tax collectors, they don't have a clue. No, wait, he just described the disciples. Sorry. That was my commentary. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. And to the disciples that were standing there, all of that made perfect sense. Because he ended with a phrase from Isaiah that said, basically, if you practice what you hear, you'll hang on to it. He who has an ear, let him hear. And in Matthew, and this is why I picked out this particular passage, in Matthew, after he's done with, this is why I speak in parables, Matthew actually adds all of the teachings from the book of Isaiah, like where that whole teaching comes from. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. This is the people's heart will become callous. They will hardly hear with their ears. They will have their eyes closed. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn, and I would heal them. And it just sounds like God's like, I'm going to trick everybody into being horrible people so I can punish the snot out of them and maybe send them to hell. And some people like preaching that. Like they just jump on it. It's like, see, your hearts are hard, your ears are dull, your eyes are blind, and if you don't wake up, you're going to end up horrible. And that's not what Jesus is teaching at all. He's saying, everything I give to people, I give them in parables so they have the opportunity to practice the practical aspects of the kingdom of God so they end up with more. That's what the disciples heard. He's like, there are secrets to the kingdom. And you know them because we practice them. They don't know them, so they don't practice them. I tell them parables so that they understand the principles of the kingdom so they can practice them, so they can learn them. Because he who has something will be abundantly blessed with more of something. What does that mean? It means if you practice what I give you, you'll end up with 100 times what I gave you. 100 times. That's the principle of God. This is awesome. And we all have lived this. We've all lived this. If you practice seeing the good in somebody, finding the gold, we call it. If you practice treasure hunting in people, if you practice it, you can't help but see it. It gets ridiculous. All you see is good stuff all the time. And people try to point out the bad stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I don't see that. What I see is this. People are like, what? Well, you're just weird. Oh, I know. It's true. You're so optimistic. I know. And I don't want to change. I like being weird. This is awesome. I mean, Daryl and I were joking about it last night. He picked us up from the airport. We're joking just briefly, like, he's like, I don't know, I'm hopeful. I was like, yeah, I know. It's a horrible place to be, full of hope. Because it was a joke, because we like being there. And that's what the disciples are hearing. Listen, if people start to practice what I teach them, they will have all the secrets of the kingdom. They will understand. Their ears will be open. Their eyes will be open. Their hearts will perceive. Everything will be open to them. This is not describing some secret mystery that some preacher gets the key to, and if you ever leave the church, you'll miss all the mysteries of heaven. No. Jesus is saying all the secrets are available to people, which is why I teach them in parables, so that people can grasp them easily, and they can walk away and they can practice this. Daryl tells a story about this church, right, all the time. Okay, not all the time. He's often told this story, right? This body wanted more healings. What did they start doing? Start praying for more healings. What do we have? We have more healings. Why? Because we start practicing what we are. The life group that I hang out with, the men's group on Thursday night, we did a book on words of knowledge. We started practicing words of knowledge. You know what everybody started getting? Words of knowledge, like crazy fun ones. One of the guys went off on a missions trip. We all gave him words of knowledge. He came back and reported on them all. Names of people he met, people that he, clothing that he saw, and healings that occurred were given to him around the table, and just a bunch of guys just hanging out. Why? Because we were practicing something that the principle of God had given us. I mean, the principle of a kingdom principle that had been given to us. We just were practicing it. And we get more, up to 100-fold. You have to understand, when Jesus said that a seed can produce 100-fold, people in the audience started laughing, because that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous production. Now, Matthew adds 60, 40, 30, which is like closer and closer to normal folds. But Luke and Mark, John, sorry. It's like, Philip? No, Bob, it's not Philip. They just say 100-fold because that was like God's, like his humorous way of saying, you're going to be ridiculously blessed if you practice the kingdoms of heaven. Yeah. You're going to be blown away with what I can do. So he goes through all that, and they all stand there, and they're like, oh, that's why he does it. What a good teacher. But he's like, be blessed, but blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly, I tell you, many prophets and religious people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Why was Jesus on the earth? He was on the earth because earlier prophets and teachers had missed the opportunity to show people the kingdom of God. They showed them the law of God. They missed the kingdom of God. They missed the loving Father that God was. And Jesus came down. He's like, I need to show you who I am. I need to show you what a loving Father looks like, because you missed it. He's like to his disciples, he's like, you guys are so blessed because you're seeing what they never saw. They missed it. It doesn't mean that they didn't love me. It doesn't mean that they didn't have passion for the Word of God. It just means they weren't able to practice the principles of the kingdom of heaven because they missed it. Oh, I need water. Glory. So that's where they were. And they were so blessed. And they did not keep the secret to themselves. They didn't huddle around Jesus and be like, why are you teaching parables? And Jesus is like, okay, I have a secret to tell you, but don't tell anybody else. You guys are special because we're practicing the kingdom, the principles of God's kingdom, and you get to know the secrets. Nobody else does. Okay, so don't tell anybody this parable. No. He tells them, he finishes out the conversation with them. He goes, okay, so let me break down the rest of the parable. Just so that we're clear, when you leave here and you go out and you talk to all your little small groups out here on the seashore, I want you to know what's going on. He said, listen then to what the parables of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, i.e., doesn't practice it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their hearts. This is the seed that was sown along the path. The seed falling on the rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy, but since they have no root, they only last a short time. When trouble, persecution comes around the world, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but their worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke out the word, making it unfruitful. And the seed falling on the good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it, i.e., practices it, interacts with it, turns it into everyday activity. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 100, 60, 30 times what was sowed. Now, I know you can apply this parable to salvation, but it really has nothing to do with salvation. This has to do with the principles of the kingdom of God. You want to see a heaven's perspective on all your circumstances? You want to see love and hope and joy in everything in life? You practice it, and you know what will happen? It'll hit you. Your soil becomes rich. The roots go deep. And what you produce is 100 times greater. Do you understand? When they heard that this principle, if applied and understood and worked out, would yield 100 times what was sown, they understood as agricultural communities that this literally shifts a culture. If somebody's crop, if every seed in someone's crop produced 100-fold, do you understand what that would do to the village? Do you understand that this was completely blow their economy out of the water? They knew what Jesus was saying. He's saying if you practice these principles, you will literally change the world. You will bring heaven to earth. Come on. Yeah. Oh man, this was a good parable. They like this one. This is a good one. So let me just break it down real quick. The path. The path is that unpracticed truth. You take it in, but because you don't practice it, it's really no blessing to the world. You learn all about, I don't know, loving people. You think, wow, man, that was a really good lesson. But you don't practice it, so it doesn't bless anybody. Just snatched away, gone. You're not blessed. Nobody else is blessed by what you know. The rocky soil. This is awesome. I like, because it says joy. I always get excited when I see the word joy. So the seed is sown. The refers to someone who hears the word and receives it with joy. This is somebody who's like, oh, I never saw it that way before. Like this is that revelation. This new revelation, and it's like, oh, freedom. Oh, this is going to be awesome. Oh, you wouldn't believe what I just read. Oh, you wouldn't believe the conference I just came from. Oh, you wouldn't believe the speaker I just heard. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. It's like going to a Power and Love conference, right? And in between every session, you're out on the streets, you're just blessing people, you're healing people on the street, you're coming back, you're giving testimonies, you're all fired up. Oh, this is good. And then life happens. You learn all about healing, but then circumstances come around, like you pray for healing for your son or your daughter or for yourself, and it doesn't happen. It's like, it worked so good when I was working with, maybe it was my partner on the street. Maybe I have to be on the street. Maybe I have to be at that conference. Maybe I'm only allowed to do it once a year. Something like that. But that's real life. That's what happens. This happens in school, right? I know we got, life school coming again this fall. Honestly, you should sign up for it. It'll be a blast. And I think it's actually, we're only going to do it for 3 months. So don't wait for the winter semester, because it could take several years to get here. So do it this fall. But Like, you get involved and you start to practice things as students, and we see it happen. It's so exciting. Serena usually leads the prophetic, right? She gets these students up, and they have to close their eyes, and somebody stands in front of them, and then, well, she usually blindfolds them because, some people cheat. I do that. It's like, I think it's so-and-so, and I just want to look real quick before I actually say it out loud because I don't want to say I need to practice more. But anyways, so they start to practice, and then it starts to happen. And oh my gosh, to see the joy that happens, to see the expansion of their understanding of God's voice within them is amazing. And then sometimes you talk to somebody a couple years later, and it's like, I remember that. That was fun. What are you still doing it? No. I don't know if I really hear from God anymore. Wait, what? God did not stop talking. You might not be practicing, but God did not stop talking. Anyway, so I don't yell at them. I usually smile and hug them, and we talk it out for a little bit. But anyways, I'm just saying. And honestly, sometimes it's this, because we preach resurrection. We do that. We believe that God raises people from the dead. We do. And sometimes someone in your life dies, and it hurts. And you pray for them to come back, and they don't. And that hurts. And then you think, well, I can't tell anybody at church about this because they'll think, whatever. They're not going to, why? They're going to think I'm a bad Christian. I mean, it's a lie. It's not true. I was telling somebody the other day, because I believe in resurrection, it actually breaks my heart more when somebody dies and doesn't come back. Because I know the power of resurrection. So I can empathize more. But if you don't practice it, it doesn't happen. David Hogan has hundreds of resurrections on his record. David Hogan prayed for thousands before his first one. Because he said, you know what, I'm not going to let circumstances dictate the truth. And that's what chokes these things out. The sun comes up and the roots dry up. Verse 22, the thorns. It grows up, but it's unfruitful. I like that phrase because it separates it again from the other ones. It's unfruitful. Why? Because life takes over. And some people use this, the deceitfulness of wealth chokes out the word. They use that as an attack on wealth. It's not. If you look again at the phrasing in the Greek and in the Hebrew mindset, it's going to be this. It's the idea that they're working for a living. And they just don't take the time to practice what they've heard. It doesn't mean wealth is wrong. It doesn't mean wealth is bad. It just means it overtakes you. Expectation of other people. Just raising kids. Keeping them out of puddles. Priorities. Don't die in the pool. That sort of thing. It can take what you know and make it unfruitful. Doesn't kill it. Just doesn't produce anything. Or you practice what you've heard. You perceive what you've heard. You understand what you've heard. And not only are you blessed, but everyone around you begins to get blessed. The culture around you shifts. You bring heaven to earth. You bring life to all. Because that's what the kingdom of God does. It brings life to all who interact with it. Everyone. This is the teaching of the goods of the soil parable. It's not about secrets and mysteries that only you get to know and the sad little people outside the church don't. It's the fact that everyone, including the wonderful, amazing people outside this church, they get to know these secrets because they can walk in the principles of the kingdom. And they can change the world. It's awesome. And that's what Jesus is doing. He's changing the world. He's bringing heaven to earth. It's a lot of fun. Now, that's it from that passage. I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, okay, Daryl let him out early the last 2 weeks. That ain't happening today. No, I'm good. Because I do have one more parable I want to look at. So we're going to move to Matthew chapter 20. This is another fun one. So this is actually, I know it's hard. I never pictured Jesus telling us a story that isn't fun. So, because I just think he was so full of joy he couldn't help it. Well, the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner. Okay, this is just, I just want to point this out because a lot of times people title this passage as the parable of the vineyard workers. It's literally in the opening phrase. The kingdom of heaven is like the landowner. This passage is about the landowner, not the workers. This is not some secret message from Jesus about grace and works, about the law, it being irrelevant, and now I'm starting the church, but I'm not telling anybody because I'm a rabbi, and if I do, they'll kill me. So but just between you and me, remember that secret stuff I told you about in the last passage? This is one of those secret things, disciples, pay attention. No, it's like the kingdom of heaven is like the landowner. So the landowner went out early in the morning to look for workers for his vineyard. Now, vineyards are important. Vineyards, everybody knows what a vineyard is in that day. Everybody understands that the timing of the harvest of a vineyard is really vital to the way that things turn out. The grapes, a really good vineyard person just knows when to pick the grapes. And you have like this window of time, only a few days, in which all the grapes have to come in order to be produced well. In order for the sugars and the water to be balanced and the sun to have made it the skin thin, but not too thin and not too tough. And oh man, it's just complicated. I read about it, trust me. And guys who know it are paid well because every day they walk out and they inspect and they look and they look and they look. And then all of a sudden, one day they'll be like, all right, today's the day. And people go crazy picking grapes. So the landowner, now this is interesting. People are listening to the story, their ears perk up because the landowner went out looking for workers. That's odd. Usually, head servant goes out looking for workers. Landowner goes out looking for workers. I put him on a horse. It's your story. You can do what you want with him. So I picture him on a horse. He goes out to the place where day workers are hanging out waiting for a day's to work. So they're there. And you see this in a lot of parts of the country, our country, other countries. People who need work for the day go to a place, pickup trucks pull up, people jump in, they drive off to a field. Everybody goes to work. Sometimes there's a group of friends that do it on a regular basis, or a group of people that are hanging out together, and they'll be like, there's like a foreman, and he'll be like, yeah, I got 12 guys, pay us this much, we'll all come work for you. Boom, all happens. So this is the everyday stuff, but it probably means it's harvest time, there's lots of work available, people who need work are hanging out at the pickup place, wherever that is. Where do you want it to be? Fountain? We'll hang out at the fountain. So the horse comes up, he's like, hey, I need workers today. They're like, yep, boom. All right, how much you paying? Pay you a day's wage, denarius. We'll call it $150. All right, we'll say it's $15 an hour for 10 hours. All right, is that okay? It doesn't sound, honestly, $10 an hour for picking grapes doesn't sound like a lot to me. That sounds like hard work. So I'm going to call it that. I know painters that make $40 an hour, so I'll point them out to you later. No, I'm only kidding. So, no, I pointed to me. That would be bad. All right, so anyways, $150. So there they go. They're like, yeah, $150. That's great. Boom. Back of the pickup. Go for a ride. Hit the fields, grab their bags. They're picking. They're excited. Landowner goes out again at 9 o'clock. Picks up another crew. Does not make arrangements for how much they're going to get paid. He just pulls up. He goes, hey, you guys looking for work? They're like, yeah. He goes, well, get to my fields. Let's go. I'll pay you a fair wage. You're like, awesome. They thought they'd missed the bus, right? You ever show up late for, I did, but I'm so old that we used to have bus stops that weren't every 10 feet in front of someone's house. You ever get stuck behind school buses? Drive me crazy. I feel like an old man behind there going, why can't they all just walk to the end of the street and get picked up at once? What is the deal? And it's like, well, because they get stolen, the people get shot. Dang it. Well, back in my day, we all went to the town hall. It's true. So that's what I think. Sorry if your children get picked up at the end of your driveway. I don't mean to belittle that. I'm just saying, that I have no idea what I'm saying now. I don't even know why this came up. Oh, because I used to, once in a while, I'd be running literally through the fields. I went over the guy's fence, through a little path I had in the woods, down through the back of the general store, and then onto the town hall property. And sometimes I'd do that. I'd come around the corner, and there'd be nobody there, and your heart would just sink like, oh, no, I missed the bus. And I knew what that meant. You didn't go home and ask for a ride. You walked to school. You did, yes, and it was uphill. The first part, it was uphill, and then it leveled out, and then I went downhill. I did go downhill, but it was about a 3-mile walk. And guess what? I stand here today a stronger man for it. I survived. Glory be to God. I don't even know how I survived. Doesn't matter. So I'm sure the guys that got picked up at, Bob, you get so distracted. I know, and you're on your second parable, and it's getting late. You keep talking to me, we'll be here longer. Good point. All right. So they probably thought they missed the bus. They didn't miss the bus. They were so excited. We get to work? Yes. Pay us whatever you want. Good. Off they go. Landowner goes back out at noon. I don't know where these guys were. They did not think they missed the bus. They were there late. He's like, hey, you guys want to work? Yep, go to my field. I'll pay you what's fair. I think the landowner knows what he's going to do at the end of the day. Do you ever plan on being generous? You just get so excited. It happens to me. Like, I know I'm taking everybody out for ice cream, and I just can't wait till doesn't matter what they do. Doesn't matter if anybody got in trouble. Doesn't matter if they fell in the pool or splat. Doesn't matter. I'm taking them out for ice cream. Everybody, this is going to just be fun. We did this when we went on our mission trips to Boston, right? We collected a ridiculous amount of money to go to Boston for a weekend. Why? Because we just planned on being generous, just doing crazy fun stuff with our money. It was fun. You buy, $100 worth of sandwiches for everybody, and then you tip the guy $150, and you watch his face just blow up. Watch a waitress, we had like $250 at a dinner, and we gave her a $450 tip. What? She doesn't even know, like she don't even know what to do. Like, this is exciting. So I think at this point, the landowner's like, oh, this is going to be fun. These guys have no clue. This is awesome. You guys want to work? Yep. Okay, go to my field. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Who in the world is not working at this point? I'll tell you who. Lazy, good for nothing. Landowner comes up. You guys want to work? Yep. I'll pay you a fair wage. Head to my fields. Now, you picture the guys who went to work at 6 in the morning. Right? They're having a great day. They're excited. They're getting paid well. They're going to be able to, their wife probably already knows, oh, got work today. Oh, I can go to the market. I can make bread. We have fruit. This is going to be awesome. Dad's working hard today. Oh, yeah, all day. He's working out in the vineyard. Yeah, he's getting $150. That's awesome. Man, this is going to be good. So they're excited. Then some guys show up at 9:30 because, I'm picturing about a half-hour walk out to the fields. And because I've been at job sites. I've been at job sites where more than one of the same tradesmen is there. And they kind of want to find out, well, what are you getting paid? What are you getting paid? Because they want to know. And I've worked on job sites where, because I have painted many times in my life, and I've had other painters come up and say, well, I hope you're charging at least this amount. Like, don't undercharge, because there's just like this little thing that goes on. It's subtle, but it's ugly. And I know that, I'm sure that went on in the fields. Well, you guys are starting late. Must be nice to sleep in. Huh? Must be nice, huh? Yeah. Good. Demetrius, how you doing, yo? I've been out here since 6 o'clock. Must be nice. And later, some other guy shows up at noon, 12:30. Oh, yeah, well, I wonder what you're going to get paid. Lazy dog. Then dudes show up at 3:30. Oh, man. Oh, some of them are just judging the snot out of those guys, just looking down at them. I know you were hungover. You were hungover. You're just a horrible being. Then the landowner goes out at 5 in the afternoon. And this is, again, the humor of Jesus. He looks at these guys and he says, "Why are you guys standing here?" And they're like, "No one hired us?" Who doesn't hire people at this point? It's harvest time. How do you not have a job at this point? Your reputation is pretty bad. Other landowners are not picking you up. Where were you the last 3 times that this landowner showed up? I don't know. In a ditch? I mean, honestly, landowner's like, "No one hired you. I'll hire you. Head out to my fields." Now, the guys who started at 6 a.m., see these guys show up at 5:30. Their minds have to be absolutely blown. What is going on? Pick up my bag and run it back. You don't deserve to pick grapes. Like, just all this is going on. So, end of the day comes. Landowner, the foreman is sitting at the table, and the landowner says, "Start paying everybody. Start with the guys I just hired and work your way back to the guys I hired this morning." So the foreman says, "All right, I want you to line up those who just started first, and then those who started early this morning. You guys in the back of the line will pay you in that order." And everybody's like, "Oh, this is great, this is great, this is great." Everybody's lined up, ready to get their money. And the foreman looks at the landowner. He goes, how much are we paying these guys?" He goes, "Just give them all $150. And foreman's like, "All right." So the first guy shows up. He's been working maybe half an hour. He's hoping to get enough money, like, to literally maybe buy a piece of bread on his way home, like just enough to get through the night. And he gets $150. He was not quiet about this. Not in my movie. He looks at it and goes, "What?" He's like, I picture the foreman going, "Do you not want it?" "Oh, no, I tell you, I'm good. Yo, I'm good. I got a whole denarius." Well, now the rest of the line's like, what? And the next guy steps up, he goes, "Here's a denarii, here's a denarii, here's a denarii." Everybody's getting denariuses, and the guys in the back who've been working all day are thinking, "Well, we're probably going to get a bonus because we worked the hardest. We worked the longest. We've got to get more." Well, that would only be just and fair. Well, it would be if work in the kingdom had anything to do with rewards in the kingdom. But you see, with this landowner, work doesn't have anything to do with rewards. You're rewarded based on the heart of the landowner, and the heart of this landowner is generous. Ridiculously generous. So he gets all done, he pays everybody, and the guys are grumbling because in their head, we worked harder than everybody else. This isn't fair. And Jesus continues the story. Landowner says, "What? I don't understand what the problem is. Am I not being unfair to you, friend? Did you not agree to work for a day's wage? Take your pay and go. I want to give the ones who were hired the same as I gave you. Don't I have the right to do with what I want with my own money?" Are you envious because I'm generous? Now, some versions have an evil eye phrase in there, something about an evil eye, which again is culturally relevant. So I'll kind of tie that in. So the evil eye is a mindset that says, I'm going to basically be upset at anybody who gets favor over me. Jesus is asking them a question, and by using that phrase about an evil eye, he's going back to rabbinical teachings that they would have all been aware of. He's like, are you being like that? This is the four types of people that were known in Jewish teachings. The average person was known as to say, what's mine is mine, what yours is yours. That's average. The ignorant person was known to say, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. That's just ignorant. The wicked person says, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, I like that. And this is from the rabbis, the rabbinical teachings. The one who represented the heart of God says, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is yours. And when he spoke about the evil eye, he was speaking about that teaching, and they all knew that. He's like, what am I supposed to do? What's your heart? You think you're rewarded based on your work. I think you're rewarded based on what I want to do with what's mine. And that's how the last shall be first and the first shall be last. That phrasing is all about the idea of treating everyone the same with a generous heart. It has nothing to do with someone being humiliated or humbled. A lot of people teach it as though, well, the last will be first and the first shall be last. I'll just drag my lonely butt through life, and God will reward me first when I get to heaven. You all be sorry for the way you treated me, because the last will be first and the first shall be last. I see the way you treat me. Yeah, God's going to crush you like a grape because I'm the humble one. No. That phrasing has nothing to do with that. It's the idea that everyone's treated the same because everyone is treated based on the heart of the landowner. It doesn't matter how long you've worked. And I know that this is difficult. It's difficult for people who have a real hard sense of justice because they want work to be a criteria for the reward. But God's justice is generosity. This is why Jesus teaches us to what? To pray blessings on our enemies. This is what he's talking about. You want your enemies to be crushed by the love of God, by an experience with the Heavenly Father that they cannot deny. That's what Jesus wants. When you pray what Jesus wants, it shows up. I know what this is like. Nobody here is like this. I've been around intercessors that don't understand this. And they're constantly praying for someone to die. They don't say it like that. They say, Lord, that man who owns that business, God, bring justice on his heart. Crush him with the justice of heaven. And Jesus is like, you mean be real generous? No, kill. Wait, what? Yeah. I learned this a while ago. So we had this businessman that bought a opened business. It was closed down. It was just an open retail place in our neighborhood down in Connecticut. I mean, it was like literally at the end of our street. And he owned two types of businesses. He owned cooking utensils stuff, like cool stuff, and like you'd walk in and there'd be 50 types of olive oil, like all infused with different flavors and stuff, like really awesome and fun little things too. And then he also owned adult retail. I'll just put it like that. Adult retail stores. And we didn't know which one he was going to put in. He just bought it. Then the rumors spread. Oh, bad things. Oh, this is bad. And I know, because I'd go, we'd have these prayer meetings literally around the building. And we'd pray. And sometimes I'd be with prayer people who were like, God, get him. Get him, Jesus. Oh, crush him, God. The wicked heart. He's selling that bad stuff to people, enslaving them in bad things. Get him, Jesus. And I remember standing there going, wow, you know what would really change his life? If he encountered the love of God. You know what would really change his life? If his cooking stores started making 10 times the amount that his adult stores were. Because he's a businessman. And that's a no-brainer if you're opening up a new business store. So you know what I did? I prayed his cooking stores started making way more money than his adult stores. I prayed that his daughters would be saved. I mean, I knew a lot about him because he was, we had all these wonderful write-ups in the paper. Prayed his daughters would just encounter the love of God at school. Prayed that Christian, really wonderful people would get interactive in their lives, that through community and relationship, he would understand that God loves him. I said, whether or not he turns to you is up to you, but he can interact with heaven. And then the cooking store opened down at the end of the street. It was awesome. I'm not saying my prayer worked. I just know what God wanted. I know what it was like to pray against somebody. I'd much rather pray with Jesus. And I know sometimes you want, somebody was really unjust to you. I've seen and interacted with really bad business, partnerships that have gone sour between two wonderful Christian people. I've seen bad marriages. I know. And the heart wants to cry out for justice, and God, it's like, yeah, my justice is generosity. My life-changing ability comes from love. And we should pray that for one another and for our enemies and for those who showed up late. When another ways to apply this is the generations, right? Some of us are like, hey, you got to pay your dues. Then we'll give you leadership. Jesus is like, that's not how the kingdom works. And that's the lesson of this parable. The lesson of the parable is the landowner. We need to celebrate favor on all people, even those who don't do it right, even those who don't believe right, even those who don't work as hard. It doesn't mean that hard work is bad. It just means it's not the criteria for God's generosity. Even for those who don't pay their dues. And if you see someone from a younger generation getting more promotion than you, celebrate it. Bless them. Trust me, celebrating someone's good fortune is a weird thing in this world. It really is. It throws people off. They think you're after whatever it is that they got. They do. They think you're trying to take their money or house or whatever God bless them with. It's awesome for them to encounter the love of God, to encounter the generous heart of God that isn't based on anything that they've done, just on you observing God's favor on their life and you saying, wow, this is awesome because I see God and what just happened to you. And for some of them, they thought it was because they worked hard. And you get to refilter that and give them an experience with heaven. You get to bring heaven to earth. And that's the story of that parable.
Hey everyone. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to this podcast on any platform you use. You can also reach out to Bob for questions or booking at thebobswitzer.com or email him at thebobswitzer@gmail.com. See you next week, guys.